Confession I have to make concerns one CM Punk. There was a physical altercation between the two of them.
At all in. Woo! But when they came to London, naturally they came to my end and they just couldn't help but get in a
fight! And I'm gonna beat you until your own mother won't recognize you. Take your mitts off them boys! They're with me!
Well, on tonight's episode of Wrestling with Egos, the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, a.k.a. your boy, a.k.a. Brian, has a confession to make about a certain wrestler who was fired with cause. By All Elite Wrestling. And
whatever
it's
that
going to be a springboard into a discussion about other times in wrestling history where a wrestler has found himself or herself on the outs with a particular company. And it's my hope, my sincerest hope, that the powers that be at Wrestling with Egos do not see fit to fire me with cause, because I am, Brian, the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, joined as ever by the funniest man in the room, KD, all the way from Birmingham, England. And this is the lean, mean, wrestle-talking machine known as Wrestling with Egos. However, you and your friends and your family and your ilk and kin are joining us, whether it's on YouTube or it's on our myriad podcast platforms, Spotify, Google, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio. We appreciate the support. KD, can you think of a reason why I might be future endeavored in the next 45 minutes, or are we good?
For being far too sexy on stream. This isn't an Andrew Tate cam girl thing. Calm it down, sir.
I mean, I do have that fresh cut from about 2 weeks ago because I was long overdue. But you've warned me about trying to be too sexy before, and I keep trying to tone it down, but it's
hard to do. Yeah,
it's a large burden to bear. We'll just
it's too natural, isn't it? So when you try and stop it, it feels forced.
Yeah. So for the uninitiated, here's what we're talking about. The confession I have to make concerns one CM Punk, a.k.a. Phil Brooks, who
Chicago made.
Yeah, was recently let go again by AEW. The long and short of it is there was an incident following, or either the lead up to one of the pay-per-views or one of the television that they were taping, involving him and Jack Perry, formerly known as Jungle Boy, who's the son of the late actor Luke Perry. Jack Perry wanted to use real glass in a spot in a match or a segment or something like that.
Right.
And Punk took exception to it, and the Lovebird...
No, exactly. He was asked by the AEW people to tell Jack Perry that.
Okay.
A few people had told him, like Tony Schiavone and someone else, and he asked Punk to then make the point to him.
Right. Well, the bottom line is the conversation turned physical. And
no, this was separate. Like they had that conversation, and then that was weeks ago. That was.
Oh, okay. I thought it was all the same. Then I'm glad I led off this way because I got my facts straight. Well, at any rate, there was a physical altercation between the two of them.
When they came to London, naturally they came to my end, and they just couldn't help but get in a kerfuffle.
That's what happens. You go to you go to jolly old London town, and this is what goes down. Yeah. But bottom line is, Tony Khan, the president of AEW, cited Punk's creation of an unsafe working environment and how Tony Khan specifically did not feel safe anymore in the presence of CM Punk. And so Punk has been fired with cause.
I mean, you heard that he apparently lunged towards Tony Khan as well, all that. He apparently sucker punched Jack Perry, which is the thing, everything else, I was like, it's CM Punk's getting screwed over by here. He's kind of getting attacked by everyone, and I can understand that. So he's in defensive mode all the time. But this time, no, he was silly, and he did it in front of the wrong person.
Right. And that brings me to the confession I have to make, because faithful viewers of our program will remember that when CM Punk debuted in AEW in 2021, there was rumors and speculation and all that about he was coming back, and Patrick famously said, "I'll believe it when I see it," and that sort of thing. I believed that he was coming back before Cult of Personality hit in Chicago that night. And there is footage of me on this channel in tears doing a watch-along of the first episode of Rampage, because this guy has
second
always
episode.
Been... Yeah?
It was the second episode.
Second episode of Rampage, sorry. This guy has always been somebody that I've liked and looked up to and respected.
Yeah.
And there's still a certain level of respect, but with all of the shenanigans that have gone down with this guy over the past, we'll say 2 years, going back to the press conference last fall after All Out, you know, him being asked to just kind of go away and not talk and be quiet and everything else. And then he came back to a much more muted reaction this time around. And I thought his promo this time, you know, the Tell Me When I'm Telling Lies promo was excellent. I'm like, okay, here we go. But it very soon degenerated into a bunch of just personal conflict, and I'm going to try and get myself over and my people over, and I'm going to do the matches I want to do, and I'm going to carry around this bag, and I'm going to spray paint an X on the championship, and I'm going to do all this stuff.
Which I will say, though, is an issue that I think AEW, all over AEW, because everyone kind of comes up with their own storylines. You know, it's a professional wrestling company. So I think that's one issue that both sides are always trying to, like, put themselves over more than anything. But yeah, Punk definitely is another one that does it more. And I think the books do it as well. Both sides of the argument do it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, but talking about Punk specifically, I just feel deluded. I feel led on and all that, and I don't feel the same way about him that I used to.
Yeah. Did you not feel like that after he left WWE?
Did what?
Did you not feel the same kind of thing after he left WWE?
I understood why he left because of the, you know, in 2014, like when he left, his body was breaking down on him. He felt he wasn't being taken care of. He felt he didn't feel like he had enough to do creatively, and he was just going.
No respect as well.
Right, and I understand that. I put that to the side here.
Okay.
And you'd like to think that as you get older, you get wiser and you work smarter and not harder. Yeah. That's a lesson that I have to keep learning all the time. I mean, you know, my personal life, my professional life, whatever. But now it just seems like Punk is not showing that he's able to learn from mistakes and able to like apply the lessons to future situations and all of those things. And I'm kind of turning into a moral issue versus anything else. Like, you know, you're still capable of having great matches, but maybe you're not capable of being the workhorse champion that you're used to being because of your age, because of the shape you're in, you know.
And the locker room
you're a lot more susceptible to injuries than you used to be. And AEW is still very much a young man's company. You know, they got people like Orange Cassidy, who's earned so much respect from me.
Same. He's probably become my favorite in our company now, with the exception of maybe of MJF. I don't know. Them two, you know. Or...
You know, what MJF and Adam Cole are doing, what, you know, all these other people are doing around there, and for you to think that, you know, the sun rises and sets in your behind, you know, and I suppose there is some of that goes along with being a pro wrestler.
Yeah,
you should always want to put yourself over at the expense of everybody else. But I'm done on my soapbox. I'm done proselytizing. It's just unfortunate, is all. But thank you to KD for coming up with this idea of having a little fun, and maybe not talking about CM Punk, even though we want those clicks and we want those views and we want those likes.
Oh, we got to talk about CM Punk a bit more still, man. I mean, there's still a lot that I'm unsure about with the situation and that, and where it could go, and still, like, this is the thing, listening to how your opinion was about it then, I had all the same feelings, but I had them from WWE when he originally left rather than got fired. I
I
felt
mean,
like
I feel like at that point I was able to like pull the lens back a little bit and understand where he was coming from, but it's harder to
yeah.
see where he's coming from now because of all these chances he's been given.
Yeah, that's
You know,
one thing I think there was an issue with. As soon as he got to AW, I think he felt like he was not just a locker room leader, but he was like higher than everyone because he was instantly like talking as if he was saying our company, we are doing
yeah,
this, and it's like you've just got there. And so it felt
right.
like he was taking over a bit, which
I mean,
is
and this may be a bold take,
mm,
but I was interacting with a friend of show and Wrestling with Egos OG RJ uh, last weekend, and I called CM Punk this generation's Hulk Hogan because of the politicking and
mhm,
histrionics and the temper tantrums and just just keep your head down and do your job.
it's true.
And it reminds me a lot of all the politicking that Hogan did famously in WCW and TNA and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And let's face it, even in WWE, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I was about to say, but we didn't like Punk does it more publicly. But you know
Yeah,
what? That's probably not even true. It's just because nowadays, obviously, everything is a lot more out in the open because social media and all that
there's
stuff.
always there's always a little voice recorder. There's always,
Yeah.
somebody with a pen and a paper, writing
Hmm.
down and, or a cell phone recording
Yeah, yeah.
an interview or whatever.
As he found
So
out
it's
when
all
he
going to
was
get
having
out there,
sex.
unfortunately. But what we thought we would do is talk about some other times in history where a wrestler has gotten himself or herself fired or
Hmm.
just out and out quit over whatever
Whatever.
scenario you can think of, a match, an altercation, a breach of contract,
Hmm.
or whatever the case may be.
An understandable reason, a not so understandable reason.
Right. Because, I mean, let's face it, as a pro wrestler, there's not a whole lot that you can do to get yourself fired. There's it's a
Yeah,
pretty wide open, like, industry.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
You can get away
my
with a
line of
lot.
work as a teacher, it's a little bit different. I mean, there's a lot of things I could do to get myself fired on
Yeah.
Monday when I, stroll into work and, let's see if we can get ourselves fired today, shall we?
You could get yourself fired by doing my job secretly while doing your other job.
Yeah, that's
I,
one way of doing it.
I know a few teachers that do comedy and they got in trouble when they got found out and they had to like kind of change their name, their stage name.
Yeah, I can see how that would create an issue.
Yeah, yeah.
But Katie, I'll let you kick it off. Can you give us an example that we can toss
Uh,
around of someone who got themselves fired or quit?
can I ask you one more thing about CM Punk first?
Oh, sure thing.
Last thing I ask: how do you feel about the possibility of him popping back into WWE?
You know, I struggle with that one because it's a lot like my take on Matt and Jeff Hardy.
Hmm.
I don't know what they have left to prove. I
Yeah.
don't know what CM Punk has left to prove, to be honest with you. Yes, he could go back to WWE and make amends, make peace with all the people that, still don't want him there, because that's all I keep reading is that a lot of people in WWE don't want him.
Hmm. I know
You
Triple
know,
H and him settled everything.
true, but
Yeah.
that's the scuttlebutt that I keep hearing is a lot of the veterans and even the up and comers like
Yeah,
don't see
yeah.
what the benefit is. And
I know. I've heard Seth talk about it.
like if you here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. If CM Punk could go back to WWE and not just talk about being contrite and conciliatory and just I'm here to work with people. A
Hmm.
lot like what he laid out in his mission statement in AEW when he looked up at the rafters and said, Darby Allin,
Yeah, yeah.
and he wrestled a lot of those young kids and
Too
made
much,
them look
but yeah.
great, you know. Um, like if he were to go to WWE and have a program with um who's a name that, could benefit from working with him?
LA Knight.
Yeah, have a program with LA Knight. You know, have a
Actually,
couple
I'd
matches.
say
with
not
him.
him, though, actually, because he might show
No,
him off.
you're probably right. But
Yeah.
somebody like Chad Gable.
Bobby Lashley.
Yeah. You know, I'm sure there's people that could put all of that aside and just do business and be business.
A lot of them in WWE professionals. That's why I think, you know, he also would know he couldn't get away with a lot of the shit he did in AEW.
Because there's a lot more oversight. It's not, just Tony Khan running around,
Exactly.
babysitting and,
and he knows that.
At the water park and stuff like that. You've got a hierarchy of people you're responsible to. You've got your agents and your writers, and then you've got, Triple H and Nick Khan and all the other people that are back there.
Let's not forget as well, CM Punk, ex-UFC fighter, technically, still good, very good relationship with Dana White, and the merger is literally finalizing in this week. For the KO group or whatever it's called, TKO group, something like that.
I mean, I guess at this point,
I think there's a very good chance.
I'll put it this way. I will not be waiting with bated breath to see what he does.
Yeah.
He will do what makes sense for him and his family and his livelihood. If he listens to his body and his body is telling him, yeah, you can still go for 6 more months, a year, whatever, then fine. I mean, will I tune in? Yeah, I'll tune in. I want to see what he's doing.
He'll be a lot better. His body will do a lot better with the WWE style probably anyway. Because, he'll be more along the line of like your Roman Reigns kind of match, a slow, story-driven match.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Good
well,
work.
We'll put it this way. If and when he does come back to WWE, I don't know that Wrestling with Egos is going to do a watch-along of that episode.
Nah, of course not.
Because the bloom is off that rose for me, unfortunately.
No, I agree with that completely.
So that's kind of where I am on all that. It's a shame that it's come to that, but it's fatigue is what it is. It's just like, can't you just stay out of your own way and do your job and
law of diminishing returns.
That's basically what it is, and that's what I've said on this show previously about Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. It's you don't have anything left to prove. You've done it all in this business. And
exactly the same with Punk. There's always that worry above it all, Obviously, it's different things that you'd worry about between the two, but there's still a worry of different things happening.
But even the injuries, like, when he had that predilection for stage diving. He would dive into the crowd, and that's how he hurt his ankle.
Idiot, man.
I even saw that, and I'm like, that did not look like a good landing.
That would have been a fireable offense back in the day alone.
Yeah. So, but I think I thank you for bringing up the Tony Khan portion of it, because I think I forget about what a loose ship he runs compared to any other wrestling company you can name. I mean,
he's learning though,
Yeah, and
this is good for him, probably.
A lot of the onus on All Out falls on him, because he was sitting next to the guy while he was eating the muffins and drinking the lime energy drinks,
100%.
and didn't say, "Okay, dude, stop. I'm cutting your mic off."
It's crazy as well. So many people I don't think have realised that it's pretty much like a year exactly between the two things.
Yeah, because he went away, for 8 months or whatever it was, and then all this other stuff has happened in just a 4-month span. So it is a toxic work environment with him.
It was not a good idea. As soon as they weren't able to sort out the stuff between the Bucks and him, which whoever's fault that may have been, trying to do the whole collision thing on different shows, it was never going to work, was it?
No. I mean, you have to be grown-ups about it. You have to sit down and say, here's what I think. Okay, I hear you. Here's what I think. And then you meet in the middle somewhere. I mean, it's easy for me to say sitting in my basement, recording this, humble little wrestling podcast, but that's what life is. You have a disagreement with somebody, and you either just avoid them like the plague, or you work it out.
Let's segue that straight into the first one of mine then.
Sure thing.
Because, like you said, sometimes you should just work it out, but sometimes when you can't do that, you're left with certain different choices. And if you're two women that are maybe say tag team champions, and the only thing you can do is throw your belts on the table, say, "I'm gone, Mr. Laurinaitis," and get on out of there to go make your Monet.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the wordplay today, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, baby.
Fancy wordplay.
You got beauty, brains, and wordplay. The true trinity.
Wow.
Yep.
And he doubles down. Of course, we're talking about Mercedes Varnado and Trinity Fatu, a.k.a. Naomi and Sasha Banks.
Mm-hmm.
This was last year, right? 2022, like the summer?
Nah, it was longer than that.
Or 21 are we talking about?
I'll have a quick look. I reckon it was quite a few years. I reckon like more like 2019 or something myself.
No. It was
more like 2020.
And it wasn't during the pandemic either.
It was before it, I feel like.
It was 21, I think.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Because they were frustrated with the lack of creative direction involving them and other tag teams that they were wrestling, and they said, "We're better than this, and if you don't have anything for us, we're done." And they laid the titles on the desk and left.
Yeah, when did?
And really, I don't know how it's benefited them. I mean, yeah, they get mentions on online and stuff like that, and on humble wrestling programs like this one.
Fair enough. You were right. It was last year. That feels like it was so much longer ago to me.
Yeah. So it's 22. But the only because Mercedes is hurt right now.
Yep.
And there was something she was just at where she was in. There was some like UFC fight or something like that where she was spotted.
She popped up at All In, and she was in the crowd.
Right. It was All In, but she had this like fur, like rainbow fur outfit on, and the stunner shades and all that.
Something.
But I wonder if with those two, if they didn't, if there's anything left to capitalize on, because yes, if they show up in another company, they'll get mentions and they'll get like they'll be the talk of the town for like a week. You know, and as I want to say it was either you or Patrick has said on the show before, if it's AEW, they'll be booked for great for 2 weeks, and then they'll get forgotten about. They'll get thrown in the scrap heap with everybody else in the women's division.
The 3-week push, it seems to be something that goes that used to be a Vince McMahon thing, and it's become an AEW thing now.
Yeah, you know what happened to Toni Storm, what happened to Athena, what happened to, you know. All these other women that show up. I mean, I appreciate them for betting on themselves.
Chin up, tits out, and watch for the shoe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick, for putting that in the chat earlier.
Yeah, that I didn't know how to react to that one, so I just figured I'd wait for an explanation. But yeah, I just don't. I mean, I appreciate them for betting on themselves. You know, they
Wait, hold on. Did you not know what that phrase was? Just to clarify.
No, I had no idea what it meant. Unless
Tony Storm said it to Renee Paquette on Dynamite, and as she walked off out of frame, she literally threw a shoe at her. She's going a bit crazy, Tony Storm, since she lost the match at All In.
Nice.
And she's always in her underwear doing it, which is amazing, you know. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well.
I
guess that's one sign of you're off your rocker. You don't put any unmentionables on.
Yeah. She's always, you know, like with it enough to put a you know, really skimpy short dressing gown thing on that's just coming down at the right places. But you know, yeah, totally by accident.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
In doing is there anything else you wanted to say about Naomi and Sasha?
I slightly disagree with you a little bit, because at the time I was like, I mean, I didn't care because I didn't think the tag titles, I agree with them, the tag titles were just nothing.
On the lower third, we should just put like a scroll and just say breaking news. KD doesn't care. This just into the Wrestling with Egos news desk. He doesn't care.
He has no more poops to give. Like Naomi, it hasn't done anything good for her, and she could have been involved in the bloodline stuff for we know.
Yeah.
At some point she could go back now. Still, really, I think she should. Maybe go with Jimmy. That'd be cool. But with that being said, though, Sasha, I think, has done really well from it. She's become like a bigger star in more of an international star now, especially going to Japan and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's done she's one of the hottest free agents at the moment, I would say. And she has something to prove in the sense that if she can go to AEW and be the one to finally fucking sort out that women's division, then
If
that'd be
anybody
great.
could do it, I think she could.
She could definitely be one of the cogs. We need more than one. Like her, Hawaii being involved too would be good. Tony Storm being involved as well. I think she's got a good mind for it. But she's
Yeah.
new, so it's hard,
I mean, I think there's a sense of you got to strike while the iron's hot. They're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about you because you threw the belts on Laurinaitis' desk and you stormed out. Okay, that's when you make your move. And I know there's non-compete clauses and stuff like that, but when that 60 days is up, or when that 30 days is up, or whatever the length of it is, that's when you walk into Tony Khan's office, or you walk into TNA's office, or you walk into New Japan like Sasha did, or you walk into whatever, AAA, Lucha Underground, and you plant your flag and you say, okay, we're here, and
suppose,
here's our
yeah,
ideas, and let's go.
Yeah, I suppose I was thinking that she did wait a while, but no, she couldn't have because it was only a year anyway since it happened. So Naomi waited quite a long time, didn't she?
Yes.
That was a mistake, but yeah. You got another one?
As far as putting Naomi in the bloodline story, there's been opportunities to insert a female into that character in there, and they've just not done it. So I don't know if they feel like it needs to be.
No, they obviously
I've
don't
wondered
think it
about
needs to
that
be.
too, because you've got any number of females in that family that you could do it with.
True.
You could bring Nia Jackson as a heavy. You could bring
Tamina
in as a heavy. You could bring Naomi.
She's not part of the family, though, is she? Actually,
who?
Tamina. She was Snooker, ain't she? That's not a.
Tamina, no, I take that back. No, she's not part of that lineage. So that's a mistake on my part.
I wouldn't blame her for not wanting to be part of Jimmy Snooker's family anyway.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Less said about that, the better.
Yeah.
In doing my research for this topic, the first example that popped into my head, and the one that I didn't need to research at all, involves the Ultimate Warrior.
Okay. See, I don't know this as well.
SummerSlam 91. Yeah, SummerSlam 91. In which the main event was him and Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter, General Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa.
Oh, it's 5 months old.
Yeah. The story goes that he was upset with his pay as it compared to Hulkster, and he thought he should be compensated more fairly, and he threatened to walk out on the match if he wasn't justifiably compensated.
Yeah, okay.
So the story goes that I want to say it was like $30,000 or something like that he argued about, like, I want 30 grand or whatever. So Vince gave it to him.
Oh, is that why he canceled the
match? He like Warrior in the match like runs off Adnan and Mustafa, and when they got to the back, he fired him. Didn't even come out for the celebration or anything else. Because I think celebration is Hulk Hogan and Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, celebrating in the ring together or something like that after Hogan beat Sergeant Slaughter.
So we're all good guys then in that case.
Yeah.
I thought he wasn't even in the main event match as well then. That's even worse.
No, he was.
Oh, okay.
It was the main event of SummerSlam. But he wasn't even involved in the finish or the post-match celebration. You got to the back.
Yeah.
Vince said, pack your bags, you're done.
I wonder if he still got that 30 grand already,
The story goes that he got it. He was given the money, like they wrote a check to him or something like that. And but then after that, like, you know, Vince is like, nobody does that to me, and all that. But Ultimate Warrior was a strange dude. You know, Jim Hellwig was of a different class, shall we say, a different vintage than we're used to.
That's a very nice way of putting it.
I'm pretty sure there was a Dark Side of the Ring done on him. I can't remember if there was or wasn't, but
I'm pretty sure there was.
You know, and the story of his reconciliation with WWE, you know, is bittersweet because after he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, like he passed away a couple days later, as I recall.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was
2015 or 2016 or something like that, because now they have the Warrior Award that they give out every year at WrestleMania.
Which is kind of strange that they do, let's be completely honest, because like you said, he's not the person that I would name an award after, which is all about, you know, like, well, I don't even know how to word it without sounding mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about, I think it's more about
perseverance and being a warrior.
Life. And, you know, doing right by his family and stuff like that. I mean, this is one of those cases where I think WWE is trying to do the right thing for his family.
Yeah, definitely.
His wife is still very much involved in stuff that they do, charitable causes and public relations and things like that.
And she must be a saint for dealing with him, so.
Yes. But when his Hall of Fame speech was very eloquent, and you could see the love that like his kids had for him and his wife had for him, and everybody should be able to achieve that in their life. I don't mean to say that you shouldn't, but during the wrestling career part of it, I mean, that dude, I mean, you know, you listen to some of the promos, you know, talking about, you know, grabbing comets out of the sky and, you know, riding it, you know, that kind of thing, and just out there. But that was the character, and that was, you know, what he needed to be to make it work, I think.
Yeah.
But he was the first one that popped into my head when we were bandying this topic about, for just that reason, like just. And there's tons of stories of in the territory days of wrestlers like threatening bookers, like, look, you owe me money. You know, that kind of thing, because let's not forget that the pay was not great back in the day.
No, not at all.
Maybe you made $50 for a match, and you know, you were lucky to do that if you were further down the card or something. Even the main event guys didn't make a whole lot. If we're talking about Mid-South or World Class or you know, San Francisco or whatever the case may be.
You had to be like a Jerry Lawler level to really make some good money.
Yeah,
because he was huge in the territories in Memphis. So.
Yes, and he had his own promotion.
Yeah. Was that Mid-South? That wasn't, was it?
Nashville.
What was that again? His one?
No, not Smoky Mountain, because that was Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Is that just Memphis Wrestling? Anything like that?
Was it Championship Wrestling from Memphis?
See, I'm trying to remember the one, and I feel like what I'm remembering in my head is that like kind of comedy wrestling promotion that they made on WWE, the kind of throwback one. I think that might be what I'm thinking of in my head. You not find it?
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Memphis was the territory.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, when you're talking about
I think they call it Championship Wrestling from Memphis.
I mean, another one just popped into my head in the same sense of what you were saying, you know, like putting the company up to ransom. And I think he left then anyway, or he was the end of his contract already at that point. Jeff Jarrett, when he did it.
He was my second one. He was the other one that I was going to talk about. And I researched this one today when I was eating lunch. The way it goes, it was 1999. And he had the Good Housekeeping match with Chyna.
Yeah.
At whatever pay-per-view it was. I forget if it was like a King of the Ring or whatever that year. The one with, you know, where they had all the stuff set up around ringside, the ironing board and the kitchen sink and the pies and the this and the flour and that and the eggs. Jarrett discovered that his contract had already run out. So he told everybody, look, I don't have to do this. My contract expired on Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. And here it is Sunday night. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart, basically. So.
And this was still in the time, like, when it was still seen as like, it would be a bad thing for a wrestler to do, to be wrestling a woman, especially losing to a woman.
Right. But, the WWE was being, really revolutionary at the time with their presentation of China.
Yeah.
And China did a lot to break the mold for how women were presented. I mean, this was a woman that, had a different body type and could go with guys and wanted to go with guys. And there were guys that wanted to work with her. Chris Jericho famously had a wonderful feud with her.
I would have no gripes about losing a fight with her. She'd beat me down.
So Jericho's out, and they put China over. And the firing actually happened 2 years later when Vince bought WCW. One of the first things he did on television after the sale was complete was, Jeff Jarrett, you're fired. And it was kind of funny that it took that long to make it official. But
so was that was he on Nitro, or was it actually a WWE thing?
Well, this was after, so Nitro ceased to exist. It was the last Nitro where Shane came out, in Florida, and Vince was in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, because I saw that from the WWE side.
Yeah. So it was in the next couple of weeks where they were talking about WCW and stuff like that, and they were trotting out all the wrestlers that they had under contract, not the ones that anybody cared about, Sean Stasiak and people like that. And one of the first things Vince did was fire Jeff Jarrett on television. It was the week after, the second week after, or something like that.
Yeah.
And Jarrett recently has been on podcasts talking about it, and he can laugh about it now, but at the time, he feels justified. I was wrestling without a contract.
Yeah. And he felt he was owed a lot of money, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, I forget the dollar amount. I mean, it was a much bigger dollar amount than Ultimate Warrior.
It was like 300 grand or something like that, or 100 grand, I swear. But there's another one in my list that kind of goes along the same time and the same thing in that WCW when it was bought out. Do you want me to give you another one?
Sure thing, because like I said, in the pre-show meeting, I only came up with two big ones. I wanted to talk Warrior and I wanted to talk Jeff Jarrett. And I'm sure there's a lot that I'm forgetting, but, hit me with your next one.
Well, from that whole thing, Buff Bagwell. People like Buff, from what I've been told. I never saw much of him, like I said. But he had that,
Buff
from
Bagwell
what I remember.
Is one of those people I've never gotten. I know I get the beefcake looks and the bowl cut haircut and the Fu Manchu and all that stuff, but I just never. And I'm sure I'll get heat from Patrick next week for saying this, but man, Buff Bagwell is one dude that I just never got.
Was it WCW or TNA that he had his mum on a forklift?
WCW, Judy Bagwell on a forklift.
How after that, how could you not love Buff Bagwell? I mean, I didn't even see it. I never even watched WCW when I was younger, but I loved him. I didn't even know who he was. As soon as I saw him in WWE, I was like, I don't know why, but I love you. And he was only there for 1 week. Had one match with who did he face again? Booker T. Okay.
Booker T. And the match was so horrible, and the fans were so like that he got to the back, and that was it for him.
Didn't they even make it so that somebody ran out and like ended the match rather than it went to its actual finish? Or am I thinking of something else there?
That I don't know.
Good job, Booker T.
It was a crappy match.
Good job, Booker T didn't go through the same thing.
Well, Booker T was like the marquee name when they first bought out, and I feel like he never really got a fair shake in WWE anyway. He deserved to be a much more frontline person than what he was presented as.
I think he got further up there nearer the end of it, but yeah, it wasn't appreciated early enough, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys, like Diamond Dallas Page, is another one that should have been presented a lot better, but no, he's the Undertaker's wife stalker.
Yeah, because at least Booker T had like world titles.
Yeah. And I mean, DDP's career, I mean, to start in your mid-30s and achieve the success that you did in WCW is inspirational. And you look at
Damien
now, getting everybody on the straight and narrow and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, now, I was about to say about that, like DDPY, like that's crazy what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just like the actual yoga itself, but like you said, all the stuff that he does with like helping all the other wrestlers and that.
Yeah.
It's disgustingly heartfelt and lovely. So I describe that.
I can't stand it anymore.
I cannot stand such happiness and such togetherness, community. Selfish.
It's so selfish.
They don't think about us. They don't want to be seeing that. I know.
You want to empty the list out? You want to give us a few more?
Yeah, okay. Going to another one. You'll probably remember this actual story a bit more than I do. I can't remember what came first, but Nailz.
Nailz is one that I've heard of, but I don't know the ins and outs of it.
I'll quickly get it up here. But from my recollection, the story was pretty much that he went in for a meeting with Vince McMahon, and oh no, I was trying to look down at what
actual ex-con, like, was that a true story or was that just the character he was playing? Was it as that of an ex-con? He wrestled in the prison jumpsuit, as I recall.
Yeah, he was supposed to be like somebody that was abused by the big boss man. So I'm assuming he probably wasn't in that case.
Okay.
Let's have a look then anyway. And the other chairman. Okay, here we go. Oh God, where's it going? Okay, the promoter of the gimmick was an ex-convict who accused the big boss man of abusing him during his stay in prison. Okay. However, so the situation may not be shocking to some. Well, this is just okay. Nailz was quickly released from the company in late 1992 after an alleged altercation with McMahon. The pair had reportedly been arguing over a financial issue, so he wasn't. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I need to talk to you about my financial compensation for being on this show.
Okay. Yeah. And I will do the same with Patrick.
Yes.
Nailz believed he was owed more for a match against Virgil at SummerSlam, and then he literally advanced on him and started strangling him.
That's right. He got physical. He put him up against the wall or something like that.
What was it? Knocked him off his chair and strangled him.
Well, that'll do it.
That will do it, yeah.
That's just cause.
Yeah, that's just cause. To answer your earlier question, no, he wasn't an ex-con, but not yet, probably.
Not yet. Fast forward to 1993 when the arraignment happened.
Oh, it's like I wonder if that photo then of the steroid stuff, when he's in like the neck brace, that had to have been from that in that case. That was around the same time. I'm just seeing this here.
That was, and I always wondered, like, all the footage I've ever seen, like, why does he have a collar on? But that makes a lot of sense. Like, if he got knocked out of the chair and,
Yeah, it is. I just read it there. That's great. Okay. He even managed to work that into
some of the gimmicks they had back then, man.
Oh, the whole, because like you said, when back in the day, wrestlers wouldn't earn that much money, so they would need a secondary job.
Yeah.
And that was their gimmick. You had a convict, you had a security guard, you had a dentist,
right?
You had an undertaker. The list goes on. You also
how about giving us one more for the road? Good
I was
sir.
about to say, you also had an Undertaker, and then fast forward like a decade or so, and you also had an Olympian, but that Olympian left, baby. Kurt Angle, that's who I'm talking about. This is a awkward one, whether it's a firing or leaving.
Are you talking about 2005, 2006 when his body was broken down
and he went into TNA after?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this one, it's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. And Kurt himself has admitted that he was his own worst enemy at this point. Because his body had broken down to the point where he was always popping pills and always, putting off surgeries and stuff like that. And WWE told him, look, you need to go and get healthy. We'd love to work with you. We loved it, but it's not safe for you to be out there.
Essentially, yeah.
He
did ask for that though, because he walked in. I listened to the story very recently again. He walked into the office when Vince was doing some stuff with some other people. He's like, I need to talk to you. And Vince was like, like, I'm busy at the moment. He's like, I need to talk to you now. And he just dropped his trousers. And all around his crotch and his legs and that was just like black and blue or something. So then he told everyone to leave and they had a discussion. And then he said, literally, like, if you don't let me go, then I'm going to kill myself. Not on purpose.
Right.
I'm just going to end up ODing.
It's going to happen. Yeah, it was pretty bad. And Kurt has been very forthright and very open and honest on all these interviews that I've seen, because he's been given a lot of interviews lately. Like, they keep popping up on my YouTube feed and stuff.
He's got his own podcast, that's why now.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Kurt Angle Show.
And yeah, I mean...
Same with Jeff Jarrett as well. He's got one.
But you look at what he was able to do in TNA and how otherworldly he was after he got right. I mean, some of the matches he was having with Samoa Joe and AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and people like that.
Yeah, he wasn't right though.
Right.
He was still more than popping.
Yeah.
That's why he never went back to WWE.
Incomprehensible. He was able to get back to that point and have that caliber matches with those people.
Yeah.
So that's actually a pretty good place to end it at, I think, tonight. It's an interesting situation when you as a professional wrestler make decisions that get you on the outs with the company. And you hate to see it happen, but in some cases justified, in some cases not so much. I'll tell you what, if you have an example of a wrestler that got fired or quit that we missed out on, you can definitely email the show, wrestlingwithegos@gmail.com.
I got one. Sorry,
yes?
Carry on, finish that bit, and I got an extra little honorable mention.
Okay. You can leave a comment below our video, whatever platform you're consuming it on. And as Katie just mentioned, you can also chew on this honorable mention that just came to mind as we cue the music and get on our way out of here.
There you go. Yeah, I can hear it already. What's his name? Jimmy Jacobs or something, the guy who was a wrestler and then he was working in the back, one of the writers or something. And remember when the Bullet Club invaded Raw? Do you remember seeing that? Bullet Club.
Remember this one?
No, Bullet Club and all them ones. When a huge crowd of people and that, and they just occupied the area outside of Raw. Obviously on Raw you never saw it. But it's not like being the
Bullet
elite.
Club, were you talking about like the
Bucks, Cody,
I don't remember.
Hangman, all of them lot, being the elite era. And he came out basically just because he knew them all anyway, and he had a photo with them and put it on Instagram, and WWE saw that photo and fired him.
Well, that'll do it. I mean, it's gotta keep kayfabe, brother.
Yeah, rooting for him.
Thank goodness.
But if you're ever let go from doing what you're doing and you've got a bit more free time and you're thinking, what am I going to do for the next week? Come on over to KD Comedy Podcast and listen to some extra funny things. Or come on over to the YouTube on KD Comedy Official when we've got celebrities boxing with each other. Before YouTube boxing, there was celebrity boxing. including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Ricky Gervais, Shaq, Tonya Harding after the Olympics disgrace. I think Kurt Angle was a disgrace to the Olympics. No. It's true. It's damn true.
Yes, lots of good content from KD over on his podcast platforms as well, so check that out. We thank you so much for consuming our content, for coming along for the ride. Until we meet again, this has been Wrestling with Egos, and discussions like this. It's why we love professional wrestling.
Dummy!